Hello students, in this video we will discuss about file service architecture from module 4. Distributed file systems. What is meant by a file system? It is considered as a subsystem of the OS which performs the file management activities such as organization, storing of a file, retrieval and protection of files. And in the case of a distributed file system, it is based on a client-server architecture. That means the files will be stored on a remote server and the client can access the file from this particular remote server. So a DFS is a method of storing and accessing files based in a client-server architecture. The file contains both data and attributes. Data means the content of the file, that is sequence of data items which are accessible to read and write operations. And attribute means it defines some of the characteristics of a file system, and it is a single record and contain information such as file length, the length of the file, next creation timestamp, read write timestamp, attribute timestamp, reference count, how many numbers that particular file is used, who is the owner of that file, type of the file, and access control list which deals with the permission, who is having the permission to read or write a particular file. And these are the basic file system modules. First is directory module. This will relate the file names to the file IDs, like the index of a text which contain keywords and page numbers. So there will be a file name and it is related to a particular file ID. And the file module means it relates the file IDs to particular files, that is file IDs related to particular contents of the file. Next is access control module which checks permission for the requested operation. File access module read or writes file data or attributes. Block module, it accesses and allocates the disk blocks. And last is device module which is used to perform disk IO and buffering operations. Now, distributed file system requirements include transparency, heterogeneity, concurrent file updates, fault tolerance, file replication, consistency and security. Also efficiency. This is the file service architecture. In a distributed file system, we already discussed it is based on a client-server architecture. The file will be stored on a remote server and the client can access the file from this particular remote server. So there will be a client computer and a server computer. The various modules in the client computer are, there will be an application program and a client module. And in the server computer, there will be a directory service and a flat file service. So client module means it runs on the client computer, and the functionality of the client module is to integrate and extend the operations of a flat file and directory service and made them available to the user level programs in the client computer. So this client module will integrate and extend the functionalities of both directory and flat file service and will make that service available to the client. Next is directory service. Directory service will provide a mapping between the text name for files and their UFIDs. That means whenever a file is created, every file will have a unique file identifier number. So this will be mapped with the corresponding file name. And the client may obtain the UFID of a file by copying its text name to the directory service. So these are the various directory service operations. First one is lookup. Lookup means it will locate the text name in the directory and returns the relevant UFID. Next is add name. If a name is not in the directory, add that name to the directory and it will update the file's attribute record. Unnamed means if a name is in the directory, that name will be removed from the directory. That means whenever if we delete a file, that particular name of the file will be removed from the directory. Next is get names. Return all the text names in the directory that matches the regular expression pattern. Next module in the server architecture is flat file service. This is concerned with implementing operations on the contents of the file. That means read operation, write operation, update operation, all these operations, implementation of the operations on the contents of the file is concerned by the flat file service. It generates a new UFID for it and returns the UFID to the requester. These are the various flat file service operation. Read, that means read the content of a file. Write means write a sequence of data to a file. Create, a new file will be created with length 0. Delete, removes the file from the file store. Get attribute, return the file attributes for the file. Set attribute, set the file attributes. So this is the file service architecture, and consider if we want to create a file. So the client module will send a request to create a file with a particular file name. So the flat file service in the server computer will create the file name and also create a UFID, and this UFID and the file name will be given to the directory service. So the directory service will map that file name to the particular UFID and will keep and will store that file name and UFID in the directory service, and this particular file will be stored in any of the database by the flat file service. In this way a new file is created. And if the client module want to do a read or write operation on the read or write or any updation operation on the file, so if it want to do a read operation, it will send the file name to the server computer. So the flat file service will get the UFID of that particular file on which the client has to perform read operation from the directory service, and with that UFID it will identify where the file is stored, will retrieve the file and will open it for reading operation. Similarly, write and update will also take place. Also we can perform delete operation on files. So if a client want to delete a particular file, it will send that name. The flat file service will take the UFID of that particular file from the directory service, will identify where it is stored, and that particular file will be deleted from the data store. Or at that time that particular file will be removed from the directory service also. It's using the unnamed operation, it will be removed from the directory service also. These are the basics about a file service architecture. Thank you.